This man weighs over 400
Body
pounds.
weight is 412 pounds.
So what would it take for him to get healthy? So according to research, it shows that being 40 pounds or more overweight, you could lose up to 20 years off of your lifespan. So if the average age of a man is 74, then that means you're only living until 54. So what does it take to lose over 100 pounds and get healthy? Now, some quick context of this. This is Iron Fist CDL, and he's a video game streamer who plays primarily Call of Duty. And 2 weeks ago, I saw him post this.
What's going on, boys? This is day 8 of only drinking control shakes until I hit my goal or till I get healthy.
And since I love helping men and dads transform their body, I figured I'd share what does it actually take to lose over 100 pounds and get healthy again. So in this video, I'm going to build out everything that Iron Fist would need in order to lose the weight and get healthy again. And we're going to do this in 3 parts. Number 1 is weight loss. Number 2 is muscle or his workouts. And number 3 is about lifestyle. What do you do after you lose the weight? Because like everybody, you want to lose this weight and keep it off permanently. So after going through the page and also going through some of the things that Iron Fist has done in order to lose weight, there's a lot bigger challenges than a normal person might see. So in my experience, one of my clients that I've helped lose over 100 pounds, he went from 369 here and now he's at 235, right? So that's over 120 pounds. There's a handful of challenges that we really need to address. Number 1, usually working with clients or individuals that are this weight, there's a deep food addiction. Food ends up becoming an emotional thing. It's something that you end up loving, right? Don't get me wrong, I enjoy food, but there is a deeper connection with it because it ends up being like an emotional safeguard, right? So stuff like emotional eating is something to take into account. Rebounding as well, right? Something I'm sure Iron Fist isn't the first time he's tried to lose weight. This isn't, he's probably tried multiple times. And when it comes to that, whenever you're so defeated so many times and it comes back over and over and over again, it can be discouraging. And it ends up being this feedback loop over and over and over again where you lose and gain weight. And I'm sure Iron Fist, not to assume, but my clients that I've worked with who have gained a significant amount of weight, there is also that fear of failure, right? Where you've seen it multiple times. And what's the point of trying again if I'm just going to fail? Or they hit a certain goal and things are going well for a bit, but then slowly but surely the weight comes back. And the last part here is also people's opinions. Right? It hurts. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt that comes with being overweight. There's a lot of a lack of confidence. So it makes it harder to put yourself out there. At the same time, in a professional sense, you also want to look and feel the part. Now, when it comes to video games and Call of Duty, etc., there might not be a certain look, but in general, just like every man, you want to look good. You want to feel good on a daily basis. And when you compound that with other people's opinions, a lot of social media out there that gets thrown into how you should lose weight or how you should do this and that, and not that, etc., etc., right? It can also be very discouraging in that sense. So these are some of the really big challenges that it comes through, right? And if you take it to a deeper level, then we're talking about motivation. We're talking about consistency. And we go into things like a lack of accountability, etc., etc. So this is really, really important to keep in mind, and that adds a lot or another level of difficulty through things. And something that else I would add here is it also takes time, right? Gaining this amount of weight, whether it's 20 pounds, 100 pounds, it's taken time for you to gain all of that. So you can't also expect to lose it all at once. Now, there might be people who take Ozempic or other drugs, but that's not really a permanent solution. It ends up being a quick fix because you're not actually changing your habits. And that's really what this time aspect comes down to. You have to change your habits. You have to change your lifestyle so that it's something that becomes permanent, right? It's not only about losing weight or for the next 90 days, for the next 6 months, for the next year. It's all right. Can I lose that weight, but then keep it off for the next 10 years, 20, 30, etc., and really live the way that you want to. So that's why all of that is super important. So before I get into the parts, I want to add a little context to this. All right. From my understanding, Iron Fist here has been going on for 15 days. Started off doing no food, weight loss, and also stayed away from carbs. Now, throughout this video, it's not to guilt or shame or kind of judge anything that anybody's doing. At the same time, I always want to make sure that it's coming out of a place of motivation, inspiration, also just general feedback. I think that's always important. And what I would do if I was in his position, or if I was coaching this individual, what I would do in that regard, because over the years, I've come up with a proven process. I've helped one individual, like I shared here, hit his 120-pound weight loss journey, and also another one that's on the way, where another client of mine who started off over 300 pounds, he's lost over 50 pounds so far, right? And it's continuing to have this snowball effect. So what people also don't realize is that when you do end up getting to this point, a lot of daily activities ends up becoming hard. Number one, you can't really cross your legs. It's harder to bend over, tie your shoes, etc. Number two, you have heavy breathing. From simply just sitting down alone, there's already this huffing and puffing. And if you add some small activity, that adds a layer of difficulty. So simply saying, all right, you just go to the gym, do whatever you want, and just start doing push-pull legs, that's not as impactful or not as helpful as one may seem. Or just telling somebody, oh, just eat healthier, right? Eating healthier, that doesn't make sense. Eating healthier is like saying, all right, just, you know what, just go make more money. That's it. You want to be rich? Go make more money. That's not an actual plan. That's not an actual outline to go from point A to point B. So that's why it's super important. Throughout this video, I'm going to be debunking some myths, also sharing what's really important when you talk about weight loss. All right. So again, kudos here as well. I think, or I believe that Iron Fist is down 12 pounds, right? He's a little bit at 400. And what we want to do is just be able to make things more sustainable, make things more permanent, and start getting into helping him build a lifestyle. So this is part one, and I'm going to go over weight loss in general. All right. What's really the main drivers that's going to be able to help achieve this goal? And when we talk about getting healthier, weight loss is number one. Right? If you want to get off medication, if you want to be able to remove that lower back pain or aches in your body, or you want your health markers to improve, the main driver for that is going to be weight loss. So that's why it's so important to, again, make sure that you get optimize this. And not only do you want to lose fat, but you want to be able to make sure that you're able to keep it off. And this is where I want to debunk a couple myths here. And first off, the carbs aren't bad. And also second, in terms of just eating healthier, right? So number one, carbs are bad. Now, that's something that's been marketed a ton. Maybe you've heard it from your parents. Maybe you've heard it from other people saying that carbs are bad, right? So removing carbs entirely, they're one of the most important food groups when it comes to having energy. Carbs give you energy. So when you talk about weight loss, right, and you cutting it out entirely, that sets you up for failure later on, right? So when you talk about losing fat in general, you want to be able to create some habits while you're doing that and be able to integrate some of them after you hit your goal weight. All right. So carbs are very, very important. And when it comes to that fat loss or weight loss in general, it all really just comes down to a calorie deficit, right? Making sure that you're expending more calories than you are intaking. And that takes me to the second point, is that a lot of people always just say, you know what, you just you need to eat healthier, right? You need to just eat less, right? And that's like, telling somebody, all right, you want to get rich? Just go make more money. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, anybody would think that, but that's not really a structured plan. All right. So whenever you talk about losing fat, you want to have things structured out. You want to be able to have a plan that takes you from point A to point B. So, for example, with this client that I had, right, that ended up losing over 100 pounds, we integrated a lot of simple structures. So, for example, one thing that you can do is making sure that you're using a hand portion. All right. Something that I like to use with all my clients is an easy hand portion system where you have a palm size of protein, you have a cupped hand of carbs, a fistful of veggies, and thumbs of fat. Right. And you start off with simple portions. So, for example, here, if Iron Fist started off with 6 portions for each one, that would easily allow him to be able to significantly lose weight without having to starve himself or feeling like he's starved all the time, right? And that's where protein and fiber are really important. Protein, number one, helps keep you full, helps you build muscle, helps you keep as much muscle as possible while you're losing weight. And also fiber allows you to stay full, veggies, a lot of nutrients that are good for you as well. All right. Now, again, having carbs give you energy. And lastly, fats are important because it allows you to keep your sustain your fat loss throughout that whole time. So that would be something that I would give Iron Fist here in this regard. Super simple. 6 portions of each. 6 portions of protein, your palm size, 6 portions of veggies, fist, cup 10 of carbs. Each one is like half a cup of carbs, rice, potatoes, etc. And fats. All right, your thumb. So a thumb is like a tablespoon. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is a portion of fat, right? That keeps it super simple. That's something that you can do even after you hit your goal weight, right? And you don't have to weigh anything, right? You don't have to go through the mental changes of like, okay, I need to count every single calorie that's happening. All right. I don't need to go through the changes of, and to be super exact with everything, right? We want to create a lifestyle at the end of the day, right? And at the same time, it forces you to have whole foods because, all right, how do we kind of count hummus? How do we count chips, right? Ideally, you want to create this lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle, and that's eating whole foods. And whole foods make it super simple to track just with your hand. All right. So that is some of the myths and how to break them and how to start tracking when it comes to your food. Right. Now, the second part is walking and moving. All right. You want to be able to be as active as possible. Right. I heard this quote where somebody who goes to the gym 4 times a week, but only goes to the gym doesn't mean that he's active. It doesn't mean that he is non-sedentary. Right. You want to create an active lifestyle. You want to create a non-sedentary lifestyle where you're moving, your body is moving. And at the end of the day, movement is medicine. A lot of that movement is going to help give you more energy. Not only does it burn calories, but it's going to help you increase your mood, increase your mental state throughout that whole thing. So something that I would do is I would start off at try to hit 10K steps every day. Now, that might be difficult depending on your weight. Steps per day. Now, that might be difficult with the weight. Now, what I would say is, all right, can we start off at 2,000 every single day? And as you build up that strength, right, then can we increase that by 1,000? Next week, 3,000, next week, 4,000, et cetera, and eventually getting up to 10K steps every single day. That's going to be super awesome. In addition, because when you're sitting around all the time, one thing that Iron Fist could integrate is walking, or not a standing desk, but a walking pad. So in between games, right, you can just quickly turn it on, have it running, and then you pop on and you're walking throughout the whole time. That makes it super, super easy. So those are really how we would optimize for that. All right, now part 2 is we're getting into workouts. Now, muscle is super, super important, right? Because not only do you want to lose fat, but you also want to look good. That's just the reality of it all. When you talk about a man, you don't want to go from fat to skinny fat. You want to build muscle. You want to increase your confidence, and muscle is going to help a ton with that. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have 6-pack abs and be absolutely shredded. No. we want to be able to have muscle. So not only are you confident in yourself, but also the longevity. The more muscle you have, the longer you live, right? And this is why such a big believer in awesome human beings like Iron Fist and also other dads is because, hey, the longer that you live, the more you can inspire people, the more that you can motivate people, the more that you can change people's lives, not only with his change in terms of the health and fitness, but also just with your content, right? And this is where muscle is super important. So with the workouts, now, what most people don't think about is that the workouts that you're able to do, especially when you're at 300, 350, 400 pounds, right? It's not going to be able to be the same as everybody else. Number one, your heart rate's going to spike super, super fast, right? Number two, you're going to get tired more easily. And number three, all the exercises may not fit what you are you may not be able to fit into all the machines or whatnot, right? I saw a couple of ladies who were easily over 250, 300 pounds the other day, and they couldn't get into a seated leg extension. And I had to share with them different alternatives. But that, just seeing their will to change, seeing them in the gym, that was inspiring in itself. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you find the right exercises. So here's just a couple. Number one is just your body weight squats, right? Maybe when you start off squatting, maybe you need to squat onto a box. You might not get as low. You might be able to get a quarter of a way. But if you keep at it multiple times, doing that three sets of 10, right? Maybe you end up getting down to halfway, right? And then you continue to work on that until you get down to 90 degrees, right? At beginning, you might have to hold on to something, right? Again, it's finding progressions so that you can hit your goals. And this is why I'm against following all of these workouts that you might see from social media influencers or different workouts that are just very generic, because you need progressions and regressions for certain exercises so that it fits where you are currently at, right? And that goes for anybody. Now, our next one, we can still work on our upper body. That's doing different things like push-ups. Can you do different presses? You can do presses from the floor as well, floor presses with dumbbells. And that's going to allow you to still work out those muscles the way that you want. All right. And last one, just to, again, work on your back, dumbbell rows, right? If doing bent over dumbbell rows, that allows you to continue to work on that back and really strengthen things. Now, something that people don't really think about as well is that when you're carrying a lot of that weight around, you actually have a ton of muscle underneath. All right. That's why simply continuing to just walk is a workout in itself, right? Walk more, get more movement. Anything that you can do is going to help. And the awesome part about this is that at the beginning, there might be some pain, right? Your back might be sore, et cetera, et cetera. But as you progress, that lower back pain is going to start going away. As you lose more weight, things are going to become easier. As you lose more weight, right? You're not going to have that soreness as much as it used to be. So that's why it's so important that your workouts, all right, should focus on your capabilities, your muscle, you're increasing your mobility. That's not done through stretching. That's done through, again, active resistance training that gets you into deeper ranges of motion so that you're able to get better at all of these, right? And that's where, again, your nutrition should be solely focused on just keeping you in that deficit. All right, using your nutrition to lose fat, and then your workouts to help you build your muscle and your capabilities. So a last point that I want to talk about when it comes to muscle and the workouts is there's really a big fear of the gym, right? It's daunting. Whether you're somebody who's super overweight, or maybe you haven't been to the gym in a while, or maybe you're somebody entirely new, right? There is a fear of judgment. There's a fear of shame, fear of embarrassment, right? What if I'm doing the wrong things? Oh my God, everybody's going to laugh at me, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where we want to use simple principles as other areas, right? Let's take talking to girls, right? At first, you're really shy. You're afraid, fear of rejection, right? But as you talk to more women, you build up that capacity and say, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Or maybe you get rejected a couple times and you realize nothing really got hurt, right? So it becomes easier and easier and easier. Same thing, talk about your work or your career, right? At first, whether you get that first job or, for example, here with Iron Fist, because he's been streaming, right? You have the initial fear of, oh, what are people going to think when I start streaming? What are people going to think when I start making videos? Everybody's just going to judge me, right? But as you build up that capacity, as you do more and more and more, that fear starts to go away, right? And that's where it's super important to just go. All right, just go. Make sure that you continue to do your best, keep showing up. And after that, it's going to become normal, right? As you keep showing up to yourself, because the biggest thing here is that when it comes to either workouts or nutrition, the reason why so many people fail with it is because they don't keep the commitments that they make to themselves. What happens is they let the opinions of other people, or they let the words of other people take away, and maybe even their own thoughts and words, right? Take away from allowing them to step into or hit their goals, right? And that's really why it's so important, and why it's always a big struggle for a lot of people that, whether it's doing 20 pounds, 50 pounds, and maybe you've tried multiple times in the past, right? There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame when it comes to losing weight, because in the past, you told yourself you're going to do something, but then you didn't do it. Or you did it, but then after a little bit, you gave up. And it's this vicious cycle of always saying, all right, I'm going to do something. You don't do it. So then you build up this kind of belief in yourself, and you're not even aware of it. Like, you know what? I don't actually keep my word. So that's why when it comes to workouts, when it comes to nutrition, is just keep saying yes, right? Keep saying yes to yourself. And after a while, it becomes easier and easier and easier. This is part 3. And I want to go into lifestyle, especially after you hit your goal weight. All right. Now, for a lot of individuals, right, you might think, all right, I just want to focus on losing weight first. I don't want to think about anything else. I just want to hit my goal, and that's it. Now, that is a really important thing, right? It's good to be able to focus on, just let me focus on one goal at a time. At the same time, it is also important to look at the big picture of things. You need to understand how these all connect. And the reason why so many people fail, when you think about the statistics around, it's actually easier to become a millionaire in the US than it is to lose weight and keep it off for more than 3 years. Funny stat, but that is the truth. And the reason why is because so many people don't think about, okay, what happens afterwards. They don't forward think. They don't think ahead. Right? So yes, maybe you hit your goal weight, you hit your 20 pounds, right? You end up going back to normal life and you gain it back after a little bit. That's what we don't want to happen. And that's why it's so important to think about the lifestyle, right? What does that ultimate version of yourself, for example, let's use, again, using Iron Fist, like what does that Iron Fist 2.0 look like? What does he do on a daily basis? What does his routines look like? And that's why it's so important to implement something that I like to call an exit strategy. All right. Similar to business, right? When you sell a company, when you're stepping down from the CEO or whatnot, or you're taking that next level, you have a strategy of how that goes, right? You have a plan for what happens afterwards. And you want to have that same thing when it comes to weight loss, right? So you want to continue working on different habits, right? So let's say you've been eating healthy this whole time. All right. What does your diet actually look like afterwards? Because you can't go back to how you used to eat before. If you do, you're going to end up gaining all the weight, right? Or, all right, I was doing something extreme, right? Like carnivore, keto, or something like that. Are you able to do that after you hit your goal weight? Right? You're probably going to have all those different treats. You're going to have to navigate through eating at different people's parties, family parties, etc., different events, right? Especially when you think about a YouTuber, you have a lot of like influencer events, etc., right? You want to be able to navigate through those, and in many instances, you're not just going to say, "All right, I'm not going to eat anything," right? Although that's an option, right? Again, now you're not in a weight loss phase anymore. So it's really important to have that strategy. Something that I like to incorporate with my clients is using simple things. Let's say, for example, all right, just hit your protein goal, hit 7 portions of protein in a day with your palm size and hit 6 portions of veggies in a day. And from there, just stop eating when you're 80% full. After you have that, the carbs will kind of fill you up a little bit, but you'll realize that you don't need as much food as you actually think. Right? So that's a very simple exit strategy. Next is having those different goals. And this is where fitness is such an amazing thing. So after you've hit your goal weight, right, there are other adaptations that we want to work on. For example, here it could be building more muscle, or strength, or power, or cardio, your vascular. Because the biggest thing when you talk about health, it's not just done. Health is it's a lifetime thing, right? We want to focus on different adaptations that allow you to be better on a daily basis for showing up, whether it's for your community online or as well, just being able to pick things up, do daily things easier, right? So that's why having different adaptations is so important, because it makes a huge, huge impact. All right. The more cardiovascular that you have, you can start running, start jogging, sprint, right? That's another important thing. Power, being able to jump, being able to be more agile, right? Strength, lifting a significant amount, right? All of these things after you hit your goal weight, they're able to do, it just opens up a huge door. And it's so amazing to be able to go through those. All right. So that's just really to think about next goals. Now, lastly, the reverse diet. And that's super important, because now that you've been in a deficit for so long, you want to slowly build up your calories, or the amount of food that you're having, so that you can have or optimize your metabolism, right? What ends up happening is a lot of people stay in that starvation mode, and whether they're eating 1,800 calories or 2,000 calories on a daily basis, when in reality, if you think about all the food that you could have, with all your workouts, the activity, now that you build up all these lifestyle habits, you can actually eat a lot more food. And what tends to happen is, maybe before you're at 2,000 calories a day, you could be at 2,500, 2,600 calories. That's an extra piece of pie, right? And it just allows you to have more food. And at the same time, having more food allows you to have more energy, et cetera, et cetera. So again, these are all these things that you need to be able to think about, or have things planned. So as you continue to progress and you take things step by step, there is a clarity and also confidence that from point A to point B, it's proven. Point B to point C, taken care of, right? So that all you have to do is, let me just follow this plan, and it's guaranteed to work, instead of always having to guess, like, oh, you know what? I know it's worked for other people, but let me do keto or carnivore and just not eat food. Yeah, you'll starve yourself, but what happens after that? What happens after you hit your goal weight, or what happens with your habits throughout that whole process? This whole thing is not only being able to lose weight, but changing your relationship with food, changing how you view yourself, changing how you interact with different areas. And that's why it's so, so important. So those are the 3 different areas that I would, if I was in a position with Iron Fist, that is how I would get healthy. And again, with all these, it's just thought I wanted to make this video because my wife enjoys Call of Duty, and this guy's been popping up on my feed for a while, and I thoroughly enjoy his videos. Think he's awesome, and just wanted to share what I would do in that position. No shame or guilt or anything negative around everything. Such a big believer. This guy's journey has been inspiring so far. So keep crushing it. And if you have any questions about anything, Iron Fist, if you do end up watching this, reach out, let me know. Be more than happy to share anything. So with that, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Want to hit this video to at least 20 likes, so make sure to smash that like button. And if you have any comments, questions down below, drop them. Peace.